Back here now to talk about the last segment on today's show. A pretty popular one in the news, just the idea of Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Miami Dolphins, one of the most recent free agent, newsworthy signings of the offseason at this point, now in the middle of May. He joined Miami on a 1 year deal, and Odell Beckham Jr. is on the fourth team in 4 years for him in his career. He is entering the 30s now of his just playing career, his personal just life. He is 31 years old now, and he missed the 2022 season with an ACL tear and has just been dealing with nagging injuries since really his Cleveland Brown days. Since that first year with the Browns, he has dealt with some pretty serious injuries and then just nagging ones like hamstrings and ankles and knees and stuff like that. All sort of things you kind of expect going later into your career, but it is just hard to see with from where Odell Beckham Jr. started to where he is now. Accepting that change is something that doesn't come easily to a lot of people, and just the drop off in production is obviously something you'd expect. But again, with how good Odell Beckham Jr. was, it is a little bit shocking to see. Just off of last year's stats, he had 35 receptions, 565 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not the kind of wide receiver one numbers you'd want. I don't think anybody really saw him as that with the Baltimore Ravens, but again, they didn't have that many wide receiver options, which is why I think it played a part in Odell not really producing as well as he probably would have liked. If he had better wide receivers around him, then we would have seen, I think, a better Odell Beckham Jr., but I didn't really like the fit in Baltimore. So now we get to this point in Miami with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and how does OBJ sort of fit into this team? How does he produce and contribute to this already high-powered team? Is the question now is 500 to 700 yards per season what Miami really needs to improve to get over that hump that sort of has made them fall over the last few years in the playoffs? Once they get there, almost similarly to the Cowboys, same general idea. They get there and everybody talks about the cold and Tua performing in the later part of the NFL season. They sort of just fumble and they don't look like they did in September, October, and even November. So that's something that they want to fix. Can Odell contribute to that? Well, at his introductory press conference yesterday on why he chose Miami, he said, "Watching the film, this reminds me of a place I had a lot of success at as far as the Giants, the timing, and all the things McDaniel preaches." Coach was mentioning that on third down, they were getting a lot of doubling, both of them, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, meaning. And there's just a lot of room for opportunity. And also, Odell went on to praise Tua and his accuracy, like others have around the NFL, specifically Tyreek Hill. Again, mentioning seeing an opportunity with what Tua brought to the table to succeed with what they got already in Miami. And that's sort of where I want to take this whole idea, because Odell acknowledged the fact that he might not be at a point in his career where he is viewed as a number one receiver, but he again re-emphasized that he is just a competitor and knows that he's got to find the way to maximize his opportunities that he gets. And I think that's sort of where the discussion finds a solution and answer, if you will. To get 500 and 700 yards in the past with the Ravens, maybe a little bit with the Rams and with the Browns in his second season, it might not have been good enough. But with this Miami team, I would side with the fact that I think it will be good enough, because you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, the type of receivers that they are and the type of attention and just production they want to produce. I think they're both number one receivers, so they're gonna get a lot of receptions anyway. I'm sure they both want to be up there near the 100-yard mark in receptions, over 1,000 yards, and that's a lot of attention being put on them as well. You don't need Odell to be a top 20 wide receiver to make this sort of star-studded big three in Miami, like they have become accustomed to in other sports, like in basketball. They don't need that out of Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think he's a top 20 receiver, but again, they don't need him to be. The biggest thing is really just being healthy. If he could play the majority of this season and you have Tyreek doing what Tyreek does. You have Jalen Waddle, again, doing what he does, taking the top off defenses, and just being a very good overall number one wide receiver. The opportunities will be there for Odell to succeed, and it's going to be best case scenario, that kind of season that you got with the Los Angeles Rams when they made the Super Bowl. I know Odell got there late, but just in those games when it really mattered, you saw what he could really be at this point in his career when he has that sort of wide receiver alongside him, like Cooper Kupp. Now he has two of them, and I don't see how he can't do at least what he did with the Los Angeles Rams. Not to say that the Dolphins are going to make it to the Super Bowl now because Odell's on the team and it is similar to the Los Angeles Rams, but I think it definitely makes them better, makes them a bit more balanced on offense to give to maybe a shorter option, not to just always bomb it down the field to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Both of them are capable of doing that, but again, all the attention just goes to Tyreek and Jalen. If Odell has single coverage, can find these soft spots in zone coverage on third downs, second downs, or just critical points in the game, I think that's really all this Miami Dolphins team needs when Tyreek is drawing in 3 or 2 guys, and same thing with Jalen on the other side. If Odell's matched up with a linebacker, I would probably take Odell 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10 in that scenario. So I think those little things are what people don't really think about when it comes to Odell signing to the Dolphins and how significant it can be for this team. And I think overall, just adding to this team on the defensive side of the ball, in free agency, addressing some of their holes on the offensive line, and with the draft, I think the Dolphins have done a good job of replenishing some of the pieces that they've lost, and needing a wide receiver as a position of need. There wasn't that many other better options outside of Odell. Maybe you could have got Tyler Boyd, but it never seemed to develop into something very serious. If it was Odell compared to all the other options that there are out there right now, I think most people would take Odell on their team on a very cheap 1-year deal. So again, if this doesn't work out for the Dolphins, they're not really losing much overall. They could just move on next year and just try and find another solution. So at best, I think this is almost a win-win, or just a win and not lose situation, because you're not really risking too much, and at best case scenario he outperforms his expectations and you get a very solid number 3 receiver. And just outside of another corner to complement Jalen Ramsey and maybe another safety as my 2 biggest areas of concern, I don't see how this Miami Dolphins team can at least be as productive and as explosive as they were last year, especially with Tua getting another year under his belt, finally having a full season, being healthy. I think that plays a lot into it. Mike McDaniel, another year being the head coach and really knowing what he's working with. The division isn't as grueling as it was before, with the Patriots and the Buffalo Bills sort of taking that mantle. You don't know really where the Bills are at right now. The Patriots aren't anywhere near being competitors right now, in all honesty. And then you have the Jets, who seem great on paper, but again, as the football season goes on, there could be more question marks that are raised. You don't know if everyone's going to stay healthy. So the Dolphins, I think, in my opinion, have the best chance right now to continue on with their consistency and have the most confidence in what they're bringing back to the table to build off of compared to those other teams around the NFC East. Are they going to win the division? Or not again, because they lost it last year, but will they finally win the division this year? I think they have a great shot of doing that, but it all comes down to how Odell develops and really Tua Tagovailoa as well. So in saying that, that'll do it for me on this episode of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast. I want to thank you guys for tuning into today's show. And as a reminder to please like, follow, and subscribe to the show as well. And also, if you want to see more of this show and more of me, to check out both the GSMC Chip Shot, not the GSMC Chip Shot, but the GSMC Sports Network channel and the GSMC Podcast Network channel, where full live shows are recorded on there as well. If you want to go back and watch a full episode, they're all on there, on top of YouTube Shorts that are posted every day and individual segment videos. If you don't have time to watch an entire show, you can watch a specific segment on there as well. As a reminder, tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more NFL and football conversations with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thanking you again for joining me, and I will see you guys back here again tomorrow to wrap up the week.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to